We're going to go to 1 Maccabees chapter 1, and we're going to start off at verse 10. I'll start off reading, all right? 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 10, it says, "And there came out of them a wicked group." Now, we just read Daniel chapter what? 11, verse 21 referred to him as a vile person. It's the same one. Give me some water. Can you read?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
1 Maccabees chapter 1. Verse 1.
Verse 10.
Verse 10. And they came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes.
So just talking about the same thing we just said. Go ahead.
Son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at home at Rome,
and who had been a hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Remember I told you this was the cat who was a hostage during the time when Antiochus the Great was paying back.
Yeah, this was Daniel 11 verse 20.
Exactly. All right. You going to continue? You want me to?
Okay.
I'm asking. Okay, verse 11.
Verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow."
Now, when you go to 2 Maccabees, 2 Maccabees chapter 2, 2 Maccabees chapter 5, is telling you some of those people that did that was a person whose name was Jason. He was an Israelite who was within the priesthood. He wanted the high priesthood. And so he was, not just him, but many of the Israelites, that's why it says wicked men, began to work with the Greeks. Go ahead.
Verse 12. So this device pleased them well.
Go ahead.
Then certain of the people were so forward-hearing that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
Now listen to this. Now jump down to verse 16.
Verse 16.
Because we're talking about when the king of the north, Antiochus IV, whose surname was Epiphanes, received a declaration of war from the regents of the king of the south, and preemptively, in other words, he decided to beat them to the punch, preemptively attack Egypt. This is it, verse 16.
Verse 16. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt.
Go ahead.
That he might have the dominion of two realms.
Continue.
Wherefore, he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt.
Now Ptolemy is talking about Ptolemy Philip. Ptolemy of the fourth. Philip. I got verse 18. And made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Now remember what we're doing is we're reading Daniel chapter 11, this is the prophecy. We're talking about hundreds of years before it. And now we're reading the fulfillment of the prophecy. When the history actually happened. I should say, the events that were prophesied happened. Alright, all still during an era that could be considered biblical time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Verse 18, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt, but Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. Okay, and that's that. All right. Now go back to Daniel chapter 11.
Verse 27.
Verse 27.
Yeah.
What did it say?
And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table.
In other words, this is what I'll explain. Antiochus IV, whose surname was Epiphanes, king of the north at the time, Ptolemy VI, whose surname was Philometor, king of the south at the time, they both came to the table with the intention of stopping the warfare. When it said they both speak lies at one table, they entered into a union where Antiochus, having been the victor, set up Ptolemy VI as a puppet king, being his uncle. But all the time, once Antiochus left, Ptolemy VI, had decided instead to rule with his brother Ptolemy VIII, who one of his surnames was Physon. Let's put it like that. Ptolemy VIII, who one of his surnames was Physon. So they ruled jointly. Go ahead.
And they shall speak lies at one table.
And that's what that's about. Go ahead.
But it shall not prosper.
When it says shall not prosper, the way that it didn't prosper, read on down.
For yet the end shall be at the time appointed.
In other words, the way in which it didn't prosper was Ptolemy VI, instead of working under the auspices of his uncle up in the north, he united with his brother and ruled Egypt. Continue.
Verse 28. Then shall he return into his land with great riches.
It's talking about Antiochus having established this and having been left with the idea that his nephew was going to rule under his own auspices, under the auspices of himself, Antiochus IV. He went on back. He went on back up north, headed back to Syria. But on the way there, read the prophecy.
Verse 28 again. Then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant.
Now, the holy covenant meaning, on the way back home, what did he decide to do? He decided to go ahead and raid Israel. And that's in 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verses 20 to 28. You read a couple of verses, and I'll read some verses, all right? I'll start off. You got to go. 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verses 20. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, just like he said, he would turn his face to his own land and then go and destroy those of the covenant. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar, and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof. I'm going to read the verse. What else? Read Daniel, please. Okay. Because I don't want to get too far ahead.
Okay. Verse 28. Then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant.
So this is what he did. He went and attacked Israel. Go ahead.
And he shall do exploits and return to his own land.
So this is what we did. In other words, we're reading it. So I read verse 21. I'm going to read verse 22. So you read the prophecy, I read the fulfillment. We can do that, right?
Verse 29.
I'm going to read verse 22. Because it said he did what?
And return to his own land.
Okay. And the table of the showbread is from all the things pertaining to the temple that Antiochus the fourth robbed. And the table of the showbread and the pouring vessels, and the vials and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crowns, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver, and the gold, and the precious vessels. He took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proud. Alright, so that's 1 Maccabees. Let's do it like this. 1 Maccabees chapter 10, 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 10, and then from verse 10, you can jump down to verse 16 and read from verse 16 all the way to verse 24 about what he did to Egypt, and then after Egypt, what he did to Israel. Okay? That's all in that verse 28. That's the fulfillment of it. Go ahead.
Verse 29. At the time appointed, he shall return.
Listen to this. At the time appointed, he shall return. Now, in order to get that, you got to go to 2 Maccabees chapter 5. 2 Maccabees chapter 5. It says he shall return and do what? What verse are you at?
29.
I'm going to read it. I said, you read the prophecy now and everything. I'm just rolling, okay? That way we can keep your zone preserved, right?
Yeah.
Read that verse again.
29.
Daniel chapter 11, verse 29. Go ahead. I hope you brothers is following. Continue.
At the time appointed, he shall return.
And when it says time appointed, it's prophesied that there will be a time when he would decide to come back to Egypt to make a second trip. Go ahead.
And come toward the south.
And